ever wondered what happened to Ty the Tasmanian Tiger? You know, the iconic PS2 game series about this scruffy little guy who threw boomerangs and gave us an alternate reality Australia where nobody ever says come. This game series boasts a cast and crew of delightful, memorable characters, fun boss fights, cool weapons, interesting and diverse missions, and a story and writing that gave you the feeling that the writers just had a blast working on it, which is because they did. Ty the Tiger was made by Chrome Studios, the Australian studio responsible for the success of Ty, all due to their creativity, passion for the project, and determination to see it through. Growing up, this game series meant a lot to me. Ty 1 and Ty 2 Bush Rescue are absolute icons that exist in my mind memory palace in the same spot that series like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and Sly Cooper all reside. But the difference between Ty and the other PS2 era platforming titans is that he's from the f***ing down under, baby. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger is like one huge Aussie caricature, complete with a boomerang-toting main character, kangaroos, koalas, Australian slang, Shadow the Hedgehog, a Forby, the word bunyip, and is the reason I thought crocodiles were in the sewer of every major city when I was little. I haven't actually been in the sewer system of a major city, so might have to update you on that one. Tokyo Sewer Expedition, I must go. But the reason Ty was head-to-toe Australian was because that was Chrome Studios' entire goal. In a Walk in the Past documentary focused on the development of Ty, which I will link in the description and seriously cannot recommend enough if you're a fan of the series, Chrome Studios, the historic team that birthed Ty and brought us the first AAA title from an Aussie developer, explains that Ty was meant to be not only a mascot platformer, able to stand on its own alongside the likes of Crash, Spyro, Sonic, Jak and Daxter, but also a showcase of Aussie culture and slang. And for me, as a kid who grew up in a rural little town in the American South where everyone I knew had never left the country, it was exactly that. It was cool to escape to another culture, and Ty presented it in a fast-paced, fun, over-the-top way. Look, you and I both know I didn't know what the f a cassowary was before this game, or a Tasmanian tiger, or a kiwi for that matter. We just do not have that shit over here. Plain and simple, we ain't got that shit. But it was that Australian inspiration that differentiated Ty from the other platformers out there, giving it its own unique charm, and actually ended up being the reason why Chrome Studios were able to land a publisher for the first Ty game. EA saw the demo of the boomerang, and just from seeing the first level, we're down to take a risk on this Ty the Tasmanian Tiger thing, and even encourage the developers to use the boomerang mechanic more and make a boomerang that you could control directly after you throw it. Which, if you've played the game, you'll know that that boomerang that EA suggested, the doomerang, is used in the very final fight in the game and is unlocked towards the end of the game for Ty. My personal favorite rangs are the multi-rang and the flamarang. Multi-rang for its functionality and flamarang for the vibes. I say, a fan of the classics. But Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, the original game, was a 3D platformer that had you playing as this scruffy little extinct Aussie critter fighting off boss Kaz's goons with your trusty boomerangs, which you can upgrade as you go through the game and traverse these big, fat-ass, expansive levels, collecting all sorts of goodies and helping Australian critters out as you go. And it's dynamite. It's an amazing game because it leans all the way into exactly what it's trying to be. From the inside out and on a molecular f***ing level, this game is an Australian flavored mascot platformer. The story is straightforward, and Ty is just this happy-go-lucky little tiger man doing whatever the hell Maury the cockatoo and Julius the science koala tell him to. Which is awesome because we, the gamer at home, are also just doing this. Never in this game did I ever stop and think, why the f am I picking up floating glowing cogs and thunder eggs and rainbow scales to unlock magic boomerangs? Never did I question why I was saving these tiny blue kangaroo rat boys known as bilbies from cages every level. Never did I ever question why I was dying and respawning seconds later in the nearest outhouse. Actually, that one was probably because it's just genuinely what happens to southern people when we take too much damage. But I wasn't questioning any of this because neither was Ty. Both of us were just here to get the job done, and it worked so well because Ty's the type of guy to get sent on a side quest to fight gators in a sewer and just say, "You rip about it." Ty the Tasmanian Tiger on all levels just worked. It just made sense. You fight a boss, and then a bit later you're working together with said boss to traverse an entire level and race a fucking woman Tasmanian Tiger who's too fast. She's too fast on the downhills. She's way too fast on the downhills. This race is too fucking hard. 25 years old, locked in, trying to beat a tiger woman in a truck. But even before all that nonsense, you're chasing an Australian turkey around a jungle for 15 minutes trying to bite it in the butt to get its magic ruby egg. You race a platypus man who I guess is supposed to be on duty as a lifeguard all the way across the damn map, so far away from his original post. Now don't y'all dare drown. Papa's gotta lock in. And somehow it all just works. It just works. Exactly like the next game, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 2, Bush Rescue. Now, Bush Rescue, while having all the core mechanics and lovable characters and even more boomerangs to huck around, is in a lot of ways a completely different game from the original Ty. And that's probably because EA saw Jak 2 come out almost exactly a year prior to Ty 2's release and said, hey, could y'all do something like that? I say this because the jump from 3D platformer, run around different levels, collecting a bunch of to semi-open world action adventure game is pretty much mirrored in the jump from Jak and Daxter to Jak 2 as it is in Ty the Tasmanian Tiger to Ty 2 Bush Rescue. Jak 2, I would argue a much more drastic jump, both into the future and in terms of giving Jak a gun and Dark Jak, metalheads to fight, and dystopian apocalyptic world the jet board around in, but Bush Rescue kind of gave Ty a similar form of that same jump. Because now in Ty 2 Bush Rescue, you now have a series of big fat overworlds to run around in, including Bush Rescue HQ, a town setting, and a huge driving map with several pit stop locations along the way. But neither of these were fully open. The story and the progression of unlocking more world to explore were still both linear for the most part, which I'm fully okay with, both when I was little playing these games and now especially after the open world gaming apocalypse that Skyrim spawned. But this big town and driving segment weren't fully open world in the sense that you could go anywhere and do any side quest at any time, but that's something that this time period in gaming was kind of known for to a degree. This not necessarily open, but also not necessarily a hub world was a place between the action where you could run around, explore on your own, and I was a sucker for this concept when I was little. The best part of Naruto Ultimate Ninja 3 for the PS2 for me as a kid was running around and doing flips and shit in the Hidden Leaf Village. I cannot tell you the amount of untold hours I've spent running around the town of Buramaji or Haven City doing kickflips on a market stalls and making those weird fucking oranges fly around everywhere. And I'll be real, I liked both of these games better than their predecessors. Jak 2 is a phenomenal game that expanded on the already incredible foundation the series had in Jak and Daxter, and I'll be damned if Bush Rescue doesn't do the same damn thing. Personally, I love the world of Bush Rescue, and I think it's a cool way to connect all the characters from the first game who are all kind of in the same community working with Ty, but gives them an actual reason and a purpose to form a team with a base working on rescuing folks in the outback. The town and driving portion also provide a big area for the cast to kind of naturally spread themselves out over as they were in different levels in the previous game. The random side questy nature of the main story to this game also really allowed the expansive cast of lovable characters to shine. This game absolutely would not be the game it is without how goofy and camp all the characters are. And it's fun to encounter these characters along with all the new randos on the streets who help fill out the town of Buramaji and greet Ty in some, shall we say, interesting and memorable ways that have wormed their way into every crevice of my damn brain. Hello there, Time. Hey, young Time. The villains for Bush Rescue are once again over the top and fantastic. Boss Cass is always a hilarious mustache twirling cartoon villain that pairs perfectly with this game series because of the way it takes almost nothing seriously. And we know that because the game f***ing opens with a massive robot onslaught from Boss Cass, and now Ty has these bunyip mech suits and flies helicopters and fights dinosaurs, and the whole thing is just a barrage of amazing, ridiculous side quests and interactions with this silly, goofy world. There's kart racing, the Sachet and Slay mech suit. There's Goobu Steve, a drunk lizard man who in his insane ramblings predicts the future and then gives you money and has been my background on Steam for the past like 6 years or however long the HD remasters have been out. This game is side quest the game, and Shadow the Hedgehog now owns a shop in a cool ass fucking location in the middle of nowhere to sell you upgrades for your boomerang. And the fucking central reason why you can't just go after Boss Cass directly and instead have to do all these side missions, saving critters, building roads, and putting out fires is because Boss Cass has formed his own country on an island and therefore has his own judicial jurisdiction, which is the most Austin Powers ass corny bad guy shit I've ever heard. But as a kid, you're like, God damn, his mind, man, can't fucking pin this guy down, he's crazy. But if you try to make this game make sense, you cannot. And weirdly, that's why it makes sense and is so strangely cohesive, because it leans fully into its style, its characters, and its setting. It's kind of like if someone handed you a Lego set for a beautiful bouquet of Lego flowers, but in the directions for the Lego bouquet of flowers, they were all instead directions to build a Lego forklift. And after you followed all the directions for a Lego forklift, at the very end, you did not get a Lego forklift, but instead a beautiful bouquet of flowers, as the box might have suggested, but the directions certainly didn't. I don't even know if this analogy makes sense. The Legos Mason. Ty the type of guy to say, is your bush in need of rescue? You google on my berries till I Steve. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 3, Night of the Quinkin. Here's where the wheels are about to fall off the 4B, so to speak. But first, I'm gonna tell you a story. The year is 2005. You're a greased up little PlayStation gamer who loved Taiwan, and Ty 2 Bush Rescue ran the roads on the 4B till the damn wheels fell off, threw countless boomerangs at innocent little koala construction men because you were paranoid that they might in fact turn out to be lizard men, and were headed to GameStop to purchase the next game in the series, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 3. You're looking at the box art on the drive home and shit looks insane. They got Ty in a whole new outfit, sick new shorts, crazy new boomerangs. He's got this insane bandolier thing. He's got the glow-in-the-dark rave bracelet on. Don't know what that's about, but boy, am I glad to dive in. Let's go. What the fuck is a Quinkin? This is about to go crazy. Get home, slap the disc into the PS2, get about 10 to 15 minutes-ish into this game, and then it crashes. And the game never ever successfully boots up and works past that point in the beginning of the game, ever. To this day, I don't know if it was a problem with my copy or with my PS2, but I never got to play this game. And in a single moment, my video game allowance and whatever the hell Ty 3 was about vanished before my very little gamer eyes. But the answer to what happened to Ty lies right here with Ty 3, because Ty 3 was once again a pretty big divergence for the series. But first, let's go back to the release of Ty 2 Bush Rescue, where Chrome Studios realizes they've got about 10 months to crank out one final Ty go-round for the PS2. And crank that shit they did. An additional problem though is that due to sales of Bush Rescue not being so hot, EA decided to jump ship and abandon Chrome Studios as their publisher. So on top of cranking out Ty 3 in 10 months, they also had to find someone willing to publish the game. And the publisher they were able to land was Activision, who helped Chrome publish this mid-2000s edgified Ty. Ty is back and he's edgier than ever, fighting Kingdom Hearts looking ass enemies called the Quinkin, and in a strange twist, Sephiroth with an Australian accent. No, what actually happens is somehow even goofier than that, because Ty finds out that the Quinkin have been waging war on the Dreaming, which is a dream world accessible by this guy, the Elder from the first game, and Ty and Shazza need to stop them from killing everyone in the real world. But then as they take the portal back to the real world when the world needed Ty most, he vanishes for 6 months and then appears back in the real world and meets a Tasmanian tiger named Ridge and learns that Burramudgee has fallen. Before you dunk on the Quinkin for being Kingdom Hearts clone enemies, it's important to note that they're actually based on spirits from Australian indigenous culture, which is cool. So they get a pass on the Quinkin. Quinkin, okay. But one man has risen against the Quinkin. A born leader with a heart full of courage and a wallet full of money. And it's Dennis. It's Dennis, the questionable, cowardly once mayor of Burramudgee, who is now apparently a general who constantly carries around a bazooka. And the general plot of the rest of this game is collecting and rallying your allies by means of doing various not so fun the second time side quests from Ty 2. Anytime you have to do a mandatory kart racer mission in a game, it's generally not a good sign. There's a lot of it in Ty 3. And while it is cool that Ty got a third game, I wish I could sit here and tell you that it was an instant classic, the likes of Jak 3, Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal, and Sly 3. Even those games felt the pressure of rush deadlines, but none of the above suffered as much as Night of the Quinkin. Night of the Kart Racer. Night of the damn Boo Boo Berries, I fucking guess. This game is not by any means Ty's proudest showing, and Chrome Studios themselves even recognize this when when it came time to remaster Ty 3 for modern console. And while they were able to tweak and fix some of the issues with this game, that there was just no fixing those whack-ass jet fighter segments, I fear. The HD remasters of these games was all made possible by revenue from Ty 4, which we'll get back to and talk about here in a little bit, and fan backing from Kickstarter to get these games available on Steam and Nintendo and everywhere else. And while I'm not sure I can recommend Ty 3 to anyone other than someone like myself who grew up with the series and never got a chance to at least give the third game a shot, or someone who just in general has big fat boners for classic PS2 platformers, I can, however, highly recommend the first two installments in the series. Ty 1 and Ty 2 are all time. They are classic, iconic, and they made the series. As for where the series is now and what happened after Ty 3, well, everything pretty much fell apart for Chrome Studios. With Ty 3 being a ginormous flop, Ty 4 canceled at the time, and no one willing to bet on more Ty games, Chrome Studios had to resort to taking on projects for other teams and cranking out games that the team just had no passion or love for. Chrome Studios struggled to find work and feed all the mouths they had on payroll, and unfortunately had to downsize their team drastically to keep things afloat. At this point, Ty then took a foray into mobile games, strangely enough, with Ty's Boomerang Blast, and then the next year, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 4. And that happened because Microsoft at the time was dumping money into the mobile game scene, and Chrome Studios just so happened to get some of that love. I feel obligated to also mention at this point that there were Game Boy Advance versions of the Ty games, but like Ty 4, they were for the most part just 2D Ty themed side-scrollers. Which, there's nothing wrong with that type of game, it's just not what longtime Ty fans were accustomed to or would have hoped that a potential Ty 4 could have been. Especially before it was ported to Steam, it was just a mobile game with skins locked behind microtransactions. Now though on Steam, you can now just buy the skins with opals you collect in game. And if you're looking to play these games, they're available on Steam and other modern consoles currently right now as the HD remasters, which are, as far as I know, from Ty 1 and Ty 2, they're pretty awesome, pretty good, very faithful remaster. And I'm not plugging this for any other reason other than I didn't even know that Ty 3 and 4 were even available on Steam before making this video, and actually stopped in the process of writing the script to buy the rest of the remastered collection because I already owned Ty 1 and Ty 2. But while Ty 4 might not have been the Ty 4 that many fans would have hoped for, it certainly is a faithful 2D representation of Ty and friends, and honestly feels more like a true blue Ty entry than Ty 3 did, at least in story and spirit. So while the massive flop that was Ty 3 nearly killed the series, the faith and passion from the fans and Chrome Studios looking to revive the series by any means necessary saved the series, with Ty 4 and subsequent Kickstarters that got the series back out there. And now at this point with the series, comics were released to the kind folks who contributed to the Kickstarter, which could potentially all be building up to an eventual Ty 5, which honestly would fucking rock, and is, at least in my eyes, the good ending for a series that stemmed from a pure want to make a fun game that showed off Australian culture, made by a developer that through thick and thin stuck with their ideas because they believed in what they were creating. And in the end, they did what any creative dreams of doing, making cool shit they're proud of that's meaningful or helpful in some way for others. So that's what's happening with Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go check out Chrome Studios on YouTube if you want to see the documentary, A Walk in the Past, or if you want to see behind the scenes Ty or updates on other Ty stuff. Links in the description for you. Go check them out. Thanks again for hanging out with me. I'll see y'all later. Bye. Goodbye now. Struth.